רתיעה, תחבושת וגבס לעניין נטילת ידיים. רתיעה, the best word I could use to translate is like some kind of band-aid. Tachboshet is, what do you call that thing that you put, like a band-aid, but it's like a cloth band-aid. You know, like they kind of wrap it on a spray.
Like an ace bandage.
Yeah, that thing. Is there a name for that aside from an ace bandage? Okay, but it's different than like the band-aid that you put on there. The gevis is a cast. Okay? Linyan netilat yadayim, regarding netilat yadayim. So I'm not talking here about mikveh. Okay, I can't tell you the laws of there about mikveh. But I'm now talking to you regarding netilat yadayim. Are those things a problem in terms of chatzizah? Do they make an interruption between the water and your hand when you want to wash your hands for netilat yadayim? So tet on page 230. Tet. Im yesh lo petza biyado, if you have a wound on your hand, v'niach alav retiya lefuah, and you put some kind of bandage on it in order to heal it. Im en haretiya kvuah, if this retiya, that's the word I'm going to use, the retiya is not kvuah, it's not, if it's temporary, that's the word. V'derech la'asira mipam lepam, and you take it on and off every once in a while. Ukagon she'en lo petza mamash, rak michush ba'alma. Maybe let's say you don't have an actual... Retiya must have a better word than bandage. Let me just... let's see what do they consider a retiya in modern Hebrew. I have tried to... How would they use that word? A retiya in Hebrew is going to be a... No, that's the wrong word. A retiya in Hebrew is going to be... No, it can't be. A compress, plaster, bandage. Okay, let's say compress. Yeah, let's use that word because that seems to be the style. You're putting it on, and it's not like you actually have a wound. You just simply have something that's bothering you there. So you put it on sometimes, you take it off sometimes. You put it on sometimes, you take it off sometimes. חוצצת הרתיעה לנטילת ידיים. The רתיעה is a חציצה, וצריך להסירה קודם נטילה, and you must take it off before you do נטילת ידיים. אבל אם הרתיעה קבועה, באופן שאינו מסיר אותה מעל היד כלל, but if it's a fixed רתיעה, and you don't take it off your hands, כגון שיש לו פצע בידה, like you actually have a wound there, והרתיעה הוא לצורך רפואת הפצע, and the רתיעה is there in order to heal the wound. אין הרתיעה חוצצת כלל, the רתיעה is not a חציצה at all. Sometimes the person will get a burn and they'll put a piece of silver on it. It's not something you put on once, you put it on, and supposedly it helps with the scars. ומכל מקום, in any case, ייזהר בשעה שנוטל ידיו. In those times where you're washing your hands, you should be careful. שלא יבוא המים על הרתיעה, that the water should not touch the רתיעה. Why? Why? You think it should touch the bandage. Why should it not touch it? What problem could there be there?
Well, it probably ruin it.
Okay, so he's not worried about the bandage. Here he's worried about halakha. Right? It could ruin the bandage. Listen to this. Because if the water touches that place where the wound is, the water will roll back down into your hand and make your hand tameh all over again. Because if it is a chatzitza, if it is a problem, then that means that the place underneath the band-aid is not going to be considered washed. It will be tameh, and therefore it will make the rest of your hands tameh. Or, what's the other alternative? Yishboch revi'it bevat achat. You should pour a revi'it at one time on your hands. What is a revi'it?
It's a measure...
It's a measure of liquid? How much? They say about 3.5 ounces.
Oh.
How much is that cup? Little one.
That's 3.5 ounces.
Yeah, that should be. Yeah? We can agree that that cup is maybe 3.5 ounces? You think I know what an ounce looks like? I don't know. 3.5.
Really, that's 3?
Maybe a little less than the cup. Okay. This cup, if you pour that much water on your hand at once, if you pour that much water in your hand at once, then what happens? Do you remember when we were discussing the halachot of whether you make a bracha before you wash your hands or after?
Yeah, they were ready to water.
And the complaint was, how could you make a bracha? Meaning, we were saying, how could you make a bracha once you've already finished the mitzvah? And they responded, well, because until you dry your hands, you're not allowed to eat bread anyways, because the tameh water is still on your hands. You cannot eat bread with wet hands because of the tameh water, the impure water that's on your hands. And what do we answer back to them? That if you use more than a revi'it of water, there is no more tameh water. Because the tameh water has already been washed away, and whatever water is on your hands is tahor. And therefore, the same halakha applies here. If you wash with more water at once, what do I mean at once? I mean, you can't do 1, 2, 3 little bits. One pour of revi'it and one pour of a revi'it, then there's no problem because the water that goes back is already ma'im torim, it's pure water. When we learn halachot, we have to remember not just to compare things to other places. We also have to remember that there are details in halachot. Those details matter. Yes, it's right that the water that comes back is tameh, but you have to know the rule. The rule is once you wash with a revi'it, nothing is tameh anymore. And therefore, technically, you don't even have to dry your hands after you wash bread. In fact, most of the time, I don't. When I'm in a place like here where I have paper towels, maybe. Sometimes you go to somebody's house and they hand you a smelly dish towel. I'm particular about this, and therefore I don't dry. I just want to leave my hands. They're cleaner before I touch the towel and after I touch that towel. Sometimes you go to like a Bet Knesset. I don't know who invented these things. We find them in Israel a lot. In New York, you find them a lot. It's like this long towel. You know what I'm talking about? It hangs on. It's just like I don't know. You dry it and you send it back up. And you dry it, and send it back up.
No more.
I don't know who invented this and who thought it was a good idea because it just means.
No one uses it anymore because it's not clean.
But in Israel, they still haven't been. In New York and Shtiblach, I've seen them too.
Really?
Yeah.
Shtiblach, of course.
Those things, I'd rather not touch them at all. Let alone.
It's a bad idea. It's like you might as well not clean your hands rather than do that.
So those things. You don't have to dry your hands. In fact, you might be doing something wrong by dry. Many times I just let my hands. By the time I set the table and they finish singing all the songs and the ladies come and sit down, your hands are already dry on their own. You have to dry them on anything. They're already dry.
What about after
So much for using the
a
pants.
bathroom? Do you have to? Your hands have to be dry.
Well, we're talking the same thing. If you wash with the revi'it, then you're okay. I mean, if it's gross, maybe. But in terms of halakha, the revi'it already solved the problem.
I used to get admonished for not drying my hands completely after washing for bread.
Of course.
In Hasidic circles.
Because those people are not reading the whole halakha. Especially they use those big washing cups. Oh, come on, that's already like that's not a revi'it. That's a few revi'its you're putting on each hand. The person didn't read slowly the halachot, compare the halachot. You're reading things that are. V'adif yoter, page 332 at the top of the page.
232.
Yeah. And it's better, לעשות כן, just do this. לשפוך רביעית בבת אחת על היד, pour a רביעית of water on your hand, especially when you have a band-aid there.
To pour the water if you have bandage on your hand, but I think before you said not to get the bandage wet.
Right, because you're washing with less than a revi'it of water. Now that you're washing with more than a revi'it of water, it's okay.
Oh.
So the question now that we have is, what's the deal with the band-aid? If the band-aid, or that, whatever that ritiya is, if that is now a chatzitza, so that means that part of your hand didn't ever get washed. So can you eat bread with that part of the hand? So he writes, if you skip those next 3 lines, because not relevant to us, the word is ve'achar. It's 5 lines down. ואחר שנטל ידיו, and after you wash your hands, נכון שיכסה את מקום הרתיעה בבד או במפית או בניילון. You should cover that part of your hand with fabric or a napkin or nylon, something to keep it away. Now that seems to me to be a chumam.
You gotta keep it off the bread, you mean?
Right.
So you don't have bloody bread?
No, so you don't have bread that touches a place that's not washed. Now here's very important though. This is a very important rule, this next paragraph. Upashut, but it's obvious to us. Shekol ha'amur la'el, that everything that we've said above, eino elab kasharti'al makom ha'etzba'ot, is only when the wound, the band-aid is on the fingers. Aval im arti'a al kaf hayad, or al gav hayad, but if it's in the, what's the kaf hayad? What's a kaf, do you know? Kaf. A kaf hayad, the palm
Sounds
of your
like a
hand.
cuff. I mean a spoon.
Yeah, it is, very, very good. It's the same idea, look how it looks.
A little spoon, yeah.
The
like a
calf.
depression, yeah.
Yeah, this depression here. Or it's al gav. What is your gav when we say gav?
Palm.
Same as
I
the
mean,
You know we say a bag in Hebrew, like a little
Teek.
briefcase? A teek, very good. How do you call a backpack in Hebrew? Do you know? A teek gav.
Huh.
It goes under your gav. And therefore, gav, if it's on the gav, the back of your hand. So either on the palm or the back. It's not on your fingers. Correct? Yiton makom etzbot bilvad, only wash where your fingers are. שהרי לדעת מרן השולחן ערוך אין צורך מעיקר הדין לטעון למקום האצבעות כמו שהבהר להלן בסוף הסימן. Because like we were reading in Maran, according to Maran, the bare minimum that you have to wash your hands is until the knuckles on your hand. So that means that if you have a wound down here, that's where all these halachot are talking about. But if you have a bandage here or here, that's not something, you don't have to worry about that part. You don't have to wash over there. Just wash up until your knuckles, and you have fulfilled the netilat yadayim that is necessary for prayer.
Is that how far you wash on a fast day?
Got me on camera here. That's how far the poskim say to wash on a, not a fast day, but on a Tisha B'Av and Yom
Yeah,
Kippur.
yeah.
The other fast days you can wash
Right.
right.
I meant.
Yeah. ואם יש לו פצע בידו, and if you have a wound on your hand, ונתן עליו רתיעה קבועה, and you put on it a... And you put on a reti'ah, that's kvu'ah means that it's the opposite of temporary. Permanent, not permanent though, but something that's staying there for a while. Yeah, like a makom kavua, like your set place in the synagogue. באופן שאינו מסיר אותה מהליד, in such a situation where you don't take it off your hand. וכדי שלא תיפול הרתיעה מעלידו כרך אותה בתחבושת ובבד, in order that it shouldn't fall off, this compression shouldn't fall off, you put on some kind of ace bandage or some kind of fabric that you tied in place. נחשבת התחבושת שכרך הרתיעה כחלק מן הרתיעה ואינה חוצצת את הידיים, ואין צריך לחוש שם להסיר אותה באמצע הסעודה ולכן אם אינו יכול להסיר את התחבושת כלום את הידיים, ביטול ידיו ורשאי איתו בברכה. Says this whole thing that you put on top of your bandage to hold the bandage in place, you say maybe that bandage is not a chatzitza, but what about that whole fabric they put on, the whole ace bandage? Says because the ace bandage is there to hold that in place, the compress in place, you don't have to worry about it. It's all considered part of the bandage and it's not a chatzitza. 233. אם מקום הנטילה מכוסה כולו בתחבושת הבגרס, if the place where you have to wash is completely covered with a ace bandage or a cast, ואי אפשר להסירם כלל בשעת הידיים, there's just no way to take it off. אינו צריך לטול אותו היד כלל, you don't have to wash that hand at all. Just skip it. ודי בכך, and it's enough שיטול ידו השנייה, just wash your other hand. ויברך בשם מלכות הידיים, and you make a bracha על נטילת ידיים.
Yadam means
It's
two.
interesting that you say plural hands, even though you're only washing one. My feeling is, and I didn't go look in all the poskim now, my feeling is that we don't change brachot that our Chachamim made. And therefore, unless the Chachamim instituted a blessing for one hand washing, I'm sure there's someone who's going to say, I'll take the yad, but we don't rule this way. And you don't have to cover that hand at all. Let's look at the footnote. In the right column on 233, in the Rashi script, there's one bold, it says Lamed Gimel, the second bold in the middle says Lamed Dal. You see that? Ayin Halan Shulchan Aruch Siman Kuf Samech Gimel Sif Alef. Look a few chapters from now in Shulchan Aruch and Kuf Samech Gimel, in the first sentence. Let's read this together. Let's turn to page. Here, page 292. Din mi she'en lo mayim. What's the rule for somebody who just doesn't have water? V'machil achrim. Or what if you are feeding bread to somebody else? Are you allowed to touch the bread even though you didn't wash your hands? So the first halakha here, Aleph. Im en mayim mitzuim lefanav, if water is not available in front of him, berachok yoter me'arba'a milin, it's in a distance farther than 4 mil. Let me see if I can get you it's a little bit. Arba'a milin is 8,000 amma. 8,000 amma is a little bit less than 4 kilometers. 4 kilometers is how much in miles?
2.5.
Yeah, say 2.5 miles. If you don't have water within 2.5 miles from you, this is what the halakha is saying. What do you mean 2.5 hours away from 2.5 miles away from you? In front of you. You're driving here to Los Angeles. 2.5 miles in front of you, but how much do you have to go back? It's not the same. Mil, ulachav mil, or if you only have a mil behind you, a mil is less than a kilometer. So 4 kilometers in front of you, 1 kilometer behind you. 4 mil in front of you, 1 mil behind you. Lat yadav b'mapah, he wraps his hand in a kerchief. V'ochel pat, and you eat bread, or anything else that has that needs washing. Rama says ochel dekaf, or you can eat with a spoon, meaning with not touching the bread. This Rama, it's a question whether the Rama is contradicting Maran, meaning you don't have to wrap your hand if you're using a fork or a spoon, or if Rama is simply agreeing with Maran and adding another condition. I mean, does Maran agree with the Rama or not? We'll talk about when we get to page 292. Yes, you would, but not 39. So here you see that when you can't get water, you wrap your hands. If you look on our forum, we recently discussed this halakha, because this word here, lat, is an interesting. What does that word mean? It seems to be a typo in Shulchan Aruch, and if you look in the Rambam and the older editions of Shulchan Aruch, they all say the same word, which means to wrap. So you don't have to worry so much. What does that word mean? Because it probably wasn't the original word in the first place. So what happens if you don't have water? What do you do with your hands?
You wrap it.
You wrap them in a kerchief, that's all.
Is that where the idea comes from, like when you buy falafel, it's in a paper container, so you don't have to say?
No, I think that's just a convenience issue.
Laziest.
And the question is, if what's happening if you wrap the bread? It seems like the poskim say, your hand is what has to be wrapped, not the like you. So so you eat the bread holding it with a bag. It seems to me the bag has to go in your hand, but I didn't get to this chapter yet with you, so let's those details then. So now let's go back to page 233. So ayin lahalan b'shulchan aruch. I'm in the footnote lamedalet in the right column. Ayin lahalan b'shulchan aruch siman kasag siv alef. Look in the Shulchan Aruch siman kuf sadi gimel siv alef. That's what we spoke now. B'din mish ein lo mayim, regarding the halakha of someone who does not have water. V'yesh lechalek ben anusim. So why is it that here, I can't wash my hand because it has a band-aid on it? Or a cast. It's not me. Someone has a cast in the hand. They can't wash their hand because it has a cast. So what is he saying here? He doesn't have to wash that hand at all, and he doesn't have to wrap it either. This should at least be like the halakha of a person who doesn't have water. And then what should he do with the hand, the cast?
Wrap it.
Wrap it. Why is this halakha easier? Why is it lighter than the halakha of one who doesn't have water? Why don't we tell a person, hey, you can't wash that hand, at least you have to wrap it?
Because it's already wrapped.
Oh, very good, but clearly it's not wrapped completely. I mean, let's say the fingers are exposed, or it wraps only till his knuckles. So why doesn't he have to at least cover this part up? Like a person who can't get water.
Because that part he can wash.
No, he can. I mean, the whole hand, for whatever reason, he can't wash his hand. We said this hand is exempt from washing, and he doesn't even have to wrap it with something.
If he can't wash, he probably didn't have it in a dirty place.
But you were close. It doesn't have to do with dirty, though. It has to do with can't wash it. Let's read what he says. Yesh lechalek ben anosim. We're going to differentiate between that chapter and this chapter of halakha. How so? Dehacha. Here in our case, the man was a cast on his hand. Hu patur legamre militorot hayad. He's totally exempt from immersing that hand at all, from washing that hand. V'chol makom tila mechusa, and all the place where he needs to wash his cover. Oh, Baruch, you're all right. He doesn't mention that. Let's say the cast is really on all his fingers. So anyways, it doesn't have to get washed. Ven hachanami shimcha. Baruch was right. What can I tell you? I misunderstood his differentiation. Okay, Baruch was right. Let's say it like this: this person's wearing a cast. It's totally on his hand. So I mean, the place where he needs to wash is covered. So then, what's the difference in here and there? He says over here, that if part of the required place to wash, I mean, from the knuckles down, is uncovered, you'll have to wash those fingertips. Whatever is revealed, you'll have to wash. So the difference between here and there is that here his hand is exempt from being washed at all, because it's covered. You don't have to add something else to that. I thought he was saying a little bit of a bigger thing. Because this hand can't be washed at all, then it's exempt entirely from being washed in the first place, and that's already not a problem. This is an important thing when we learn halachot, to know about exempt. Who's exempt? What is exempt? Who's obligated? What is obligated? Who is the obligation on? Is the obligation that something needs to be done, or is the obligation that someone needs to do it? There are two different halachot. Should I explain? In the Brisker community, they call it, is it a mitzvah, is it a chefza or a gavra? Is it a mitzvah on a person or is it a mitzvah on an object? So for example, is it that a lulav has to be taken every day of 7 days? Or is it a person has to take a lulav for those 7 days?
Thanks.
I'm trying to think of an example, my blind is blank right now, of a mitzvah that's on an object itself. And my mind is right now, there's some classic examples of mitzvot ala chefetz.
Not to fill. Filler would be the person.
Oh, very good, mezuzah, thank you, Mani. The mezuzah. Is the mezuzah mitzvah on you who's living in the house to put a mezuzah? Or is it mitzvah that a house that you own requires a mezuzah? The mind nafka mina, what difference does it make? Who cares?
Well, in terms of its implications and applications.
Yeah, so how so? Which, like, for example, let's give a better example of renting, because what can you say? You can say you're renting it to someone who's not Jewish. Or you're renting someone Jewish. So you're renting someone not Jewish, they don't need a mezuzah. So that's a different question. Can you put a mezuzah in the house where they're going? Yeah. What about the question of if you're renting a Jewish person? Maybe they have the obligation to put a mezuzah. The question here is, what if I rent a house but I don't live in it? It's just an investment property and it's empty.
Like,
do I have to put mezuzot on it? Or not?
No, only if you live there.
If the mitzvah is on me, that I own a house, I have to put a mezuzah on it.
Oh,
Then when I'm there, it has to have
That's how you're
mezuzot.
looking
But
at
if it's that a house has to have mezuzot, that's a different story.
But that's the object.
It's like a four-corner garment. Like if you've got the four-corner garment, you need the tzitzit, or is it that the like the house?
Right, is the mitzvah
the house
on,
just
very
needs
good.
it, you know?
Is the mitzvah on me that I need to put on tzitzit, a four-corner garment tzitzit, or is it a mitzvah that when I have a garment of four tzitziot, that's when, four corners, that's what I have to put? That's a very good example. That's also another example. What difference does it make in other areas? For example, the question about Brit Milah comes up. We're going to read down this parashah that Moshe Rabbeinu's wife gives his children a Brit Milah. Yeah, it's a midrash. Here, there's a lot of details from the midrashim that we find. I'm not telling you about why. I mean, the story is a story. It's a real story. But the details, well, people were dying. I'm not getting into those details of the story here. Can a lady actually give a Brit Milah? This is the question that comes up in halakha. Now,
Mohalit?
you can you have like a mohelet? I don't know. Like, it's such a thing. The question that you're going to have here, listen, is not. We're not. You can easily dismiss this whole question. It's before the giving of the Torah. The halachot don't really apply. All these things you can get rid of. I'm not going down this road in terms of halakha, but the question stands. The question: can a woman be a mohelet? So the question here is: what is the commandment of Brit Milah? Is the commandment that a person has a organ that needs a Brit Milah, and therefore anyone who can do it can do it? In that case, could be even a non-Jewish person could do a Brit Milah. I mean, what happened needed to happen, or is it there's a mitzvah of a person to do a Brit Milah, and therefore you have to have a person who's obligated in the mitzvah in order to do the mitzvah? So the question is, if Tzipporah did the Brit Milah, how is it that she did it if she's not obligated in a Brit Milah? So some poskim say that a lady is obligated in a Brit Milah, like men are obligated in a Brit Milah. But because a lady does not have an organ which can have a Brit Milah, Therefore, it's not that she's exempt from it's not that she's not commanded to bring milah. She's simply exempt because it doesn't apply. And therefore, in the situation where you would need a woman to do a brit milah, she's kshera. Other poskim would say no, because she doesn't have an organ that can have brit milah. She's completely the mitzvah doesn't apply to her at all, and therefore she cannot be part of the mitzvah process because she simply is not obligated enough in order to be able to do the mitzvah. This is going to be a big debate between the rabbis of Sfarad and the rabbis of Ashkenaz. Can a woman choose to opt into a mitzvah that she's not obligated in? It seems that I'm not saying that this is really what they believe, rather those who try to understand what it is they're feeling. The famous question is going to be about a lulav and a tov. Can a lady make a bracha and a lulav and a tov when only a man is commanded to take a lulav and a tov? According to Rabbi Yonatan, yeah, she can take it. According to the Rambam and Maran, she can't. Why not? Maran and the Rambam say, how could she say, I was commanded in your mitzvot to take a lulav and a tov, which she was not commanded in the mitzvot? Asher kedishanu tzavah, she's not commanded. If she wants to take it, fine, hold it. But to make a bracha on that? Rabbi Yonatan says no. She can opt into a mitzvah and say Asher kedishanu tzavah. Why?
Why can
It
she
seems
opt
that
in?
according to Rabbi Yonatan, all women are obligated in all the mitzvot. And our Chachamim exempted them from certain mitzvot that are time bound or whatever other mitzvot. And therefore, if a woman chooses to opt back in, then she just goes back to the standing of everybody else. She's now commanded of this mitzvah.
This is a
And she's
chazakah.
there every year then.
Well, I'm not. See, these are already details of today. Like, does she have to keep doing it? I'm not going to. I mean, if she opts in, she has the ability to, because she was on the plan. She just got exempt from it. According to the poskim, like the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, it seems like she was never obligated in the first place. So she can maybe do the mitzvah, but to obligate herself in a bracha it's too much. She was never obligated in the first place.
Well, if you go by the opinion that says that women were obligated in all of them, but we were exempted, like from time bound, then reading the Torah and praying.
Correct. There's really the question is, where's the limit to this?
Yeah.
The same poskim who let women they hold that women can do all these mitzvot that they opt into, they have to have a better answer for why they don't let other things. You understand? That's a very good question, Martin said. That's a very good question.
Rabbi, but let's say a woman gave birth, but let's say for any reason the father is not present, but the kid needs to be, circumcised. Can she take that?
She will hire a mohel to do the brit milah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting question. What you say right now is a very interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if chas v'shalom, a child is born, and his parents don't want to give him brit milah? On who does the obligation fall to hire the mohel, the mother or the father?
I think both.
So there's a lot of arguments here, and in many Jewish communities, what happens if a child is an orphan, or he has a mother but not a father? In some situations, it's the Beit Din's obligation to hire a mohel because the father is not present and to give the child a brit milah. Some would say, no, the mother is equally obligated to the father. If there's no father, then the mother does it. But if the mother is exempt entirely from this idea of brit milah, it could be that she's also exempt from hiring a mohel, and therefore it's the Beit Din's responsibility. Here's going to get into an issue, so who's paying the mohel? There are such questions. The Beit Din and the lady are going to go to court together, and so who does the community have to pay for this brit milah? You have to pay for this brit milah. What about Pidyon Ben? What happens if there's no father to do the Pidyon Ben? Can the mother do Pidyon Ben instead? Does the Beit Din appoint representative, like a opatropos, there's a word for this in English, like a legal guardian who does that? There are real questions here in this area of halakha. The way Tosfot, Rabbi Yonatan, the way he wants to answer why a lady can say Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu is that she's not talking about herself. This blessing is in plural. We were commanded. I'm talking about the Jewish people. I'm not talking about myself. That's his way to answer. This has many ramifications in halakha.
Oh, so that makes more sense.
Many. Yeah, but according to the Rambam, this would be violating one of the Ten Commandments of saying Hashem's name in vain.
But he says if it's given to us, it means us as a Jewish people.
But still, he believes she's not obligated to be in the first place. Which is why many have a custom that when she takes leaven at all, she could do it, but without a bracha. Why do you need a bracha? Everyone can do a mitzvah without a bracha. If I pick up my leaven at all, and I forget to make a bracha, can I make my bracha again? No, it's over. My mitzvah is over. I already did the mitzvah. If you put on tefillin, you forgot to make a bracha, you already did your mitzvah. Now, are there poskim that say, yeah, you move the tefillin off your head and put it back on your head? Okay, I didn't. Those are later day, I want to get the bonus points for brachot. But really, there's only 1 or 2 mitzvot where speech is even necessary for that mitzvah. Most mitzvot, when you do the action and you had in mind I was doing a mitzvah, you don't need to make a bracha. If one were to ask me, I know there are long-standing minhagim, both in Ashkenazi communities and in Sephardic communities, believe it or not, that women do make a bracha on Lev Nitzvot. They're old minhagim. In fact, even though Rabbi Yosef would say that if you would hear a lady make a bracha on Lev Nitzvot, you don't answer Amen, Rabbi doesn't agree. He doesn't agree because that in Morocco, a woman did make a bracha on Lev Nitzvot. The Chida records a minhag like this 300 years ago. A minhag goes against Shulchan Aruch. This is again going to be a war. It's a war. So how much do we listen to Shulchan Aruch? I'm not here to stick my head now in this debate. But I can tell you, if a person were to ask me, I want to be safe. I'm a Talmidei Chachama. I'm a Torah scholar. I learn Torah. I observe mitzvot. I want to shake 11 at all. Rabbi, should I make a bracha or not? My answer to them, at least at this point in my life, would be, if you're a Talmidei Chachama, you're not motivated by your emotions. You're motivated by your knowledge of halakha. Some people are not. Everything for them is in emotion. How can I put my plates in the ocean to immerse them? There are lobsters in the ocean. It makes the water not kosher. Okay, there are people like that. Yeah, okay.
Is there
That's
any
not
basis at all to that?
No, it's an emotion. Meaning I can't
You have
help
to
you.
use lakes, not ocean.
Even if I were to tell you, what about the crayfish? Even if I were to tell you,
Right.
the catfish, I don't know. If I were to tell you that this is, I once told a person, true story, a bride to be, she may be 19 or 20. I told her, don't worry, it's batel b'shishim. The lobsters are nullified in 60. Well, you think she knows Siman Kuf Yud Maran in chapter 110? You read there, he says that if it's a complete lobster, then it's not batel even in a million. I didn't tell her that. But okay, that way she could immerse her dishes. What am I going to say? There are people who their halachot are governed by emotions. There's no halacha involved in it.
Right.
I strongly recommend the read. Yes, it is definitely, it didn't come out of our Beit Midrash. Rav Soloveitchik has a book called The Halachic Man.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Some of it is Rav Soloveitchik being a philosopher, and just skip the parts where the English doesn't make any sense, because unless you're brilliant like Rav Soloveitchik, you won't understand it anyways. But the parts that are written in normal English for normal people, he differentiates between a person who's a halachic man and a religious man.
Right.
A religious man is motivated by his religious and spiritual needs, and some Hasidim took offense from this book because they felt that he was trying to push the war against Hasidim again. But if you knew Rav Soloveitchik, he had no war with Hasidim. He was, in fact, had an affinity to Hasidut more than any other briskers that you would know.
Well, he mentioned the Tanya.
Yeah, he studied in
And
the
friendly,
Chabad school. when he
friendly
was-
with the Soloveitchik rabbi. I mean, with
Yeah, with the Lubavitch Rebbe.
Lubavitch
Yeah,
Rebbe.
it's a false accusation.
Right.
He's allowed to express an opinion that you don't like. It doesn't have to be a war against you. This is I know the world doesn't understand this concept very well. But Rav Soloveitchik says, halachic. He was talking about his grandfather, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the famous brisker Rav. He was once coming out of the Beit Knesset, and the brisker Rav sees his 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and they were playing in the mud. And one girl was crying. He said, "Why are you crying?" So we're playing horse and rider, and this one has a horse and he has a rider, but I don't have a horse because there's no 4th kid here. So Rav Soloveitchik, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the grandfather, put his books down, his talit down, swim down, and he got on all 4s, and he was the horse. And someone came to scream, the chief rabbi of the city, but that's how you act. You're playing in the mud on the floor, like, what are you, a horse? And Rav Chaim Soloveitchik didn't understand, what's the problem? I didn't get it. And he explained, because this is the definition of a halachic man. The halachic man doesn't have social norms that compel him to act in a certain way. Halakha says you see a person who's suffering, and you want to help that person who's suffering, that's a halakha. Not getting on all 4s and playing in the mud is not halakha. And that's a social norm. Maybe you don't want to see the rabbi do such a thing, but that's not something he takes into consideration. The halachic man sees the sunset, and he turns his back to it, especially in California, and he prays. That goes Baruch Hu. The religious man sits there, wow, Hashem, look at such a beautiful creation, ends up missing Tefillah and Mincha because he's busy being religious. And Rav Soloveitchik made a very big differentiation. Are you a person whose religion is governed by halakha, or your halakha is governed by your emotions? It could be religious emotions, but it's emotions. Even in the world of Chassidut, you find such a thing. The Lubavitch Rebbe, Alav Shalom, he has a little book he wrote. It's called the Hayom Yom. Every day, a little teaching about Chassidut. In there, he once wrote a piece. He said there's a religious Yetzer Hara and there's a Hasidic Yetzer Hara. He said there's more than that. So religious Yetzer Hara is one who tells you, you should pray now. Don't pray. Come and study Torah. Study Torah is more important. Oh, you should go help a sick person? No. Prayer is more important. This is the religious Yetzirah. He always gets you to overlook something more important because of something that's religious. He says the Hasidic Yetzirah is the one who tells you, he writes this, not me. He says, oh, you have to pray on time? Nah, you have to read the whole book of Tehillim and study the daily Tanya and finish the Rambam. Don't pray on time. You have to do all these things beforehand. He said, that is a Hasidic Yetzirah. Because he's telling you to do the things the Hasidim do, but it comes on account of following halakha. He says that can't be this way. It cannot be. How far things have come since these things were written, I can't tell you. But this is an important idea. How did I get to Rav Soloveitchik and halachic man? We're talking about, to a lady. I would tell him, you're going to fulfill the mitzvah 100% if you shake a love and without making a bracha. Why would you want to violate potentially one of the 10 commandments? Because you have this emotional need to make a bracha. Why? You could do the mitzvah just the same without it. According to the Rambam, you're not obligated at all. According to Rabbi Yonatan, you could even be obligated to the point of making a bracha. So come with a compromise. You're going to fulfill the mitzvah like Rabbi Yonatan, but you're not going to make a bracha, maybe God's name in vain, like the Rambam. Why not? We have to teach people to appreciate that halakha functions in a certain way. You can do things without always being governed by the religious emotion that you have inside of you. And that's always been the problem of, in my opinion, the poskim with the world. The halachas, they didn't understand I don't say they didn't understand. They didn't care to understand what compels a person to violate everything in the world for the sake of looking good or feeling right or maybe you might have such a need to be popular, but why is that a halachic need? That's not a need that you have. I'm just checking my phone because my watch is wrong. Okay. I had put a quote today from Martin Luther King. Lehavdil. I'm differentiating, but it's an important quote. I'll read it because it's important. It says, "Torah b'goyim al tamid." From the non-Jews, Torah doesn't come. You're not going to hear a religious teaching from the Catholic Church that is worth our time. But chokhmah, but wisdom that comes from the goyim tamid, of course, everybody in the world can bring us wisdom.
There's even a bracha we say on wise people of
That's correct.
Jewish nations.
So he writes, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular. But one must take it because one's conscience tells one that it is right. It's the truth. The person of halakha doesn't understand all the non-halachic considerations you go through when dealing with the halachic equation. Why? Why do you care? Oh, they're not going to eat in my house in the community. Fine, that's your social issue you have to work out. Why does it affect how you rule halakha? I mean, we understand. Of course, by the way, it could be. It could be that you should stay away from doing certain things because the place where you live won't look on it kindly. That could be, but that's not. That should not affect your halakha. That should be something you do because temporarily I'm in a situation where I'm not able to observe halakha properly. One has to know that.
In a Jewish community with hundreds or thousands, you can't observe halacha properly
correct.
because of social, but one would choose to do that.
Some would choose. I wouldn't choose to do that, but some would choose to do that. Some don't have a choice. Some don't have a choice to be in a place where they can follow halakha. Imagine how you see, people say, "Oh, this one is controversial." They say, "What's so controversial?" Oh, he said X, Y, and Z. What about X, Y, and Z is written in Shulchan Aruch? Yeah, we don't follow that. Hold on a second.
We don't hold by that.
So you can say that you don't follow Shulchan Aruch. So you're controversial. But this one who's following Shulchan Aruch is not. How could it be in the Jewish community that following what it says in the Jewish law is considered controversial? That's a problem. That is a problem. But it's unfortunately sometimes it's a reality. It's a fact. What can you do? You can try to educate, but there's some people that doesn't make a difference to them. No matter what they're going to hear, it doesn't make a difference. The way they do things is right.
Well, there's a difference between, let's say, not serving raspberries to certain guests when they come, but if it means you never eat raspberries at home ever, then
Right.
it's another issue.
So an example I can think about is, let's say a person eats kidneyot. Yeah.
Oh, and Pesach.
Yeah,
That's a
Pesach.
prime one, yes.
Is it because this is important? Now, anyone who knows, even Ashkenazim know, who know halakha, the kidneyot is not a halachic problem on Pesach. It's a custom problem on Pesach. So if you know that all your friends and your family that are visiting you for Pesach will not even drink tea in your house because maybe the cup that you use the coffee that for them I don't know, has a kidney. I don't know what the problem is. I'm making up a problem. So it could be that that's why we don't eat kinyot here to accommodate your stupidity. You tell them like something that they don't have to be concerned. Now is that a halakha? No, but it could be. It could be that a person who lives in a place where their kid will be asked to leave yeshiva, or they'll be asked to step out of the community or not get out. Yeah, that could be. It's a very real situation. And maybe you have to balance this out and say there is no. See, if it was a mitzvah to eat kinyot, I don't care what you say. I have to do my mitzvah. There's no mitzvah to eat rice on Pesach. It's just something we can do. So if you're telling me that I need to refrain from something because that's the social norm that I need to be able to live and function normally, you're in the wrong community. I can tell you that. But I understand a person who wants to live like that. I
But
understand.
what if it affects a person's health? I've actually seen situations like this. Like in Denver, Colorado, they suspended for an Ashkenazic family the requirements to not eat kibbutz, et cetera, because this person's health was maintained by eating a brown rice diet with beans and things like
The
that.
rabbi who I quoted last week,
Yeah.
Rabbi Huda Fishman, my
And
mom,
it was just dropped like that.
he writes how many times it was a normal thing for the chief rabbi of a city in Europe to say, this year we're eating kiddiyot. Because this year the community didn't have enough money to only live off of it, or because people are very poor, because potatoes weren't available, or some places
Or they were
potatoes were
kiddiyot.
considered kiddiyot.
Right.
You know that?
Yeah.
And they would suspend the laws of kiddiyot. They would say, this year we just can't do it. So next year we'll try again. And he says in the certain town that he was in, and Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was there, the chief rabbi of the town made all the rabbis of the town come to his house for the first Seder, including Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And he wanted them to see that he eats kinyot and they have to eat kinyot in front of him. There's no room to be lenient, to be strict, and not eat the kinyot. There's not a leniency. The halakha says you can eat kinyot. And this year, what happens if the rabbi says okay, but all the other rabbis don't do it, so the people won't do it either. So that's how he ensured that the community ate kinyot. The first night, all the rabbis had to eat at his seder. This was nobody bats an eyelid. The Ashkenazi rabbis are not upset for that story. Maybe today they are, but in Ashkenaz, the Ashkenazi rabbis, the real chachamim, live in Ashkenaz. They would never. What's the problem? The chief rabbi has the right to suspend kinyot this year. Can you imagine that happening here? You know, in California, with the rabbis of California, and with the Central Committee of California rabbis, they don't such a thing. They have decided this year no Jews in California should refrain from eating kinyot. Can you imagine the outcry that would happen? And who would listen to them? I know how it works. Even the people who don't keep Shabbat, they don't eat kosher, those people don't eat kinyot on Pesach. Oh, those rabbis, what are they? They're fake rabbis. That's what would happen. I know what would happen.
Been there, done that.
But that was a normal thing. The Ashkenazi rabbis were not stupid. I can't say over and over and over and over and over again. I believe that I respect Chachamei Ashkenaz more than some Ashkenazim believe respect Chachamei Ashkenaz. Chachamei Ashkenaz, and there are obviously exceptions to every rule, like Chachamei Sfad also have exceptions, were people that were very motivated by Talmudic logic. That's part of the community. Sometimes to a fault. Sometimes the logic in Ashkenaz reached places that shouldn't have reached. But the understanding of halakha was, if it's okay, and it's allowed, so why shouldn't it be? Those rabbis had the courage to do such things, and it wasn't considered weird. We lack that freedom to act on the law. That's the problem. Imagine if you were stopped by a police officer on the highway. Hey, you're speeding. The law says you have to drive 65 miles an hour. You're like, oh, officer, please. But my family custom is always to drive 20 miles over the speed limit. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, sure.
That's what it's going to look like after 120
It's
years.
worth a try.
It's worth a try. That's what it's going to look like in the Bedin Shalmana. Hashem will say, I gave you a halakha. Halakha says 65 miles an hour. But if you drive 30 miles an hour on the highway, you're also going to get a ticket. Either way you deviate from the halakha is forbidden. How could you, oh, my custom is, whose custom? The highway says 65 miles an hour. Yes, there are things, there are areas that are gray in halakha, that's why we rely on customs. But in places where we have clear halakhot, oh, that was a tangent, but it's important. Page 234. Top and Yud Aleph. Im hayta retiya al yado. If there was this compress on your hand, this bandage, I don't know exactly a good English word. ובאמצע סעודתו נפלה הרתיעה, in the middle of the meal it fell off. צריך לחזור וליטול כל היד. now you have to go wash your hand again.
Really?
Because now this part of your hand
Is exposed.
is exposed and requires a new hand washing. ומכל מקום בד, לא יברך הדת השם, you shouldn't go make a bracha on that second washing.
Are they splitting the difference of whether it's like just sort of like a cloth bandage, or if it's more like a poultice with
Right.
like extra like herbs and creams on it or something?
That's not what concerns them as much as it's something that's temporary. You take off, you put on and
Okay.
off, or is it something that stays there until it heals? That's what's going to make the difference for them. Because if it's something you take off, you have to wash your hands anyways. Take it off and wash your hands. If it's the kind of thing that stays on, so you could wash your hands with it, but if it would fall off, then it would be a problem of nitlat yadayim. What's in there doesn't. I mean, because if it's going to be a chatzah, regardless of what's in there, will be a chatzah anyways. If it's not a chatzah, regardless of what's in there, will not be a chatzah anyways. Okay, this next halakha is a little bit gross. And I want tomorrow, maybe we'll do the footnote that talks about this, because it seemed like last time it bothered somebody about the mikveh. Ptsaim, wounds, shehiglidu. Forgive me, but that word is the same word as glida.
Ice cream, yeah.
Ice cream.
It's
It
congealed.
means like pus. It means like some
Yeah,
kind of pus
okay.
happened.
Yeah, wounds that became
It oozed.
right. Regarding tatidayim. So let's say Yud Bet. Petza shehiglid. A wound. Yeah, and then v'ityabesh, and it dried.
Okay, kind of like a. It's more than a scab. It's like a.
Well, it could be a scab, because the next one is v'chen rir sheyatza min hapetza. Rir is like pus, something that comes out of the wound, and then ityabesh ma'alav. Then it dried on top of the wound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Im kashe lahasiro machmat shesh otzar b'asarato. If it's difficult to remove it because it will hurt you when you take it off.
Sure.
Yeah. Ve'ino makpid lahasiro, and you don't mind that it's there, meaning you were planning to leave it there until the wound healed anyways. Listen carefully. There are some people who pick all their wounds, meaning that bothers them that the wound is there, or that bothers them the scab is there. They're going to have a different halakha. That might be a chatzitza for them.
But that could get infected. So.
That's right, but that's their problem. And their problem is that they decided that something that should be there is a problem. Yes? Yeah, in general, I should explain. Our body does a lot of very wondrous things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. People over time have decided that certain things that our body does or has, they don't want. It's an interesting thing. There are people that get body parts removed because they don't think they're important.
It's
a
an,
Kadosh
it's
Baruch
an
Hu-
obsessive
If
condition.
a Kadosh Baruch Hu put a body part inside of a person, it clearly has a function. You didn't figure out what it does yet. I don't know to figure out what it does yet. It's there. If for whatever reason something has to be removed because that's going to save a person's life, okay, like anything else. But in general, your body's very wise. It does things that are very important for itself. When there's a scab on top of a wound, it's healing itself. You should see, Chaz Shalom, a person that it's not a normal thing that a person could get not talking about a scratch, a cut, a gash in their body, and it literally sews itself back together and then heals. Where in 10 years from now, you're not even going to see that there was a scar there. In many cases, your body already took care of it. Sometimes a scar. But it's an unbelievable thing. There are people that want to mess with their... I understand. So long as they don't want to take it off and it doesn't bother them, it's not a chatzitza. ויש מקילים בזה אפילו כשהוא מקפיד להסירום, and those who are lenient about this, even if he is the type of person who takes off his scabs or his wounds, כל שקשה להסירו, as long as it's difficult for him, מחמת שיש אוצר בהסרתו, because it hurts him. So if it's the kind of person who likes to take this off, but it hurts them, then there are some who are lenient and say that even though that really should be a chatzitza, it's not a chatzitza. Tomorrow we're going to go through their logic. Why is that and how is that and whatever else is that. Tomorrow we're also going to get to some halachot. Well, this is the next halakha, 235. We'll call it a night, and tomorrow we'll do the footnote. Then we'll just get you a good English word. There's some words that I speak to, but I didn't grow up using them in English. Okay. Yabalot. Yabalot are like warts. It could be, I don't know, zits, or whatever people, the body has, or pisot o, or pieces of skin, like, what do they call them? Cuticles. Yeah? Linyan tatab, regarding washing your hands. Yud Gimel, top of 235. Yabalot nimtzaot biyadayim enan chotzatzot. The warts, or these the things that you have in your hand, are not a chatzitza. V'afidu omed lahasiran enan chotzatzot. And even if you plan to remove them, they're not chatzitzot. V'chen pisot o, and also the pieces of skin. Hayotzot be'etzbaot hayadayim, that come out of your fingers, samuch letziponayim, close to your fingernails. Afal pi she'atidot lipol melehen, even though they will eventually fall on their own. Enan chotzatzot, they are not chatzitza. Because most things that would stick to your hand and will come off eventually are chatzitza, but this is not. V'chen kilufei o, and also peeling skin. Habayim machmat hashemesh, sometimes it happens because of the sun. Or machmat kviot, or because a person got burned. Afal pi she'atidim lipol melehem, even though they fall, they're going to fall eventually, I mean, they'll pass on their own. Einam chotzitzim, they are not chatzitzot. We will touch a little bit about how this applies to mikveh. I'm not going to give rulings about mikveh, but essentially this is part of your skin, it's part of your body. So it's not a chatzitzah, even if it's eventually going to fall. It has a different status in halakha than parts of your body than other things that would be attached to your body that are foreign objects to your body. Okay, tomorrow I want to discuss these notes, and then we're going to start a new halakha on 236, which we touched on earlier, but we're going to discuss a little bit more about chatzitza. This whole chapter is about chatzitza, but we're going to get to things like rings on your hands, jewelry, how much, where you have to wash your hands until, which we also touched, because a lot of these halachot require knowledge of other areas, but we're going to do those parts that we touched on, we're going to actually do them inside. That's going to be tomorrow.
So,